It was 2:47 a.m. when my world collapsed. I couldn't sleep. Work stress, you know? So I grabbed my laptop, thinking I'd scroll through some mindless content until my eyes got heavy. Just random browsing. Nothing intentional. That's when I saw her face. At first, my brain couldn't process it. Like when you see someone you know in a place they shouldn't be. You do that double take, squint a little, tell yourself it's just someone who looks similar. But it was her bedroom in the background. The same white headboard I'd traced with my fingers countless mornings. The same fairy lights she'd hung up 2 months ago. The same burgundy pillows we'd picked out together at Target. And there was Sarah. My Sarah. The woman I'd been dating for 6 months. The woman I was falling in love with. Completely naked. Posed. Professional lighting. A premium adult website. My hands started shaking so violently I nearly dropped the laptop. The room felt like it was spinning, and suddenly I couldn't breathe properly. You know that feeling when you're in an elevator and it drops too fast? That stomach-lurching sensation? That was my entire body. I stared at the screen, hoping I was hallucinating. Hoping it was some sick joke my exhausted mind was playing on me. But the more I looked, the more undeniable it became. The small scar on her shoulder from when she fell off her bike as a kid. The butterfly tattoo behind her left ear that she'd gotten on her 18th birthday. This wasn't some look-alike. This was the woman who made me coffee every morning, who laughed at my terrible jokes, who talked about meeting my parents next month. The profile said she'd been active for over a year, hundreds of photos, thousands of subscribers, premium content, private messaging. I clicked on her profile with trembling fingers, and my heart shattered completely. Video thumbnails filled the screen. Content dating. Back 14 months, which meant she'd been doing this our entire relationship. Every I love you, every intimate moment we'd shared, every conversation about our future. All of it had been happening while she was living this secret life I knew nothing about. I slammed the laptop shut and ran to the bathroom, barely making it before I threw up. My legs gave out, and I found myself sitting on the cold tile floor, head in my hands, trying to understand how the person I thought I knew could be a complete stranger. What do you do when you discover the woman you love has been lying about everything for 6 months, when you realize you don't know her at all? I was about to find out. Let me take you back to the beginning, because now I realize how perfectly orchestrated everything was. I met Sarah at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. Classic story, right? She was struggling with her laptop, coffee spilled everywhere, looking frustrated and embarrassed. I offered to help, we started talking, and by the time I'd helped her recover her work presentation, I was completely charmed. She told me she was a social media manager for wellness brands, explained how she worked with these boutique companies, creating content strategies, managing their Instagram accounts, building their online presence. It sounded legitimate, trendy, the kind of job young professionals have these days. I love helping small businesses connect with their customers, she'd said, stirring her latte with this genuine smile. There's something so rewarding about taking a brand from 0 followers to thousands of engaged users who actually care about the product. I was impressed. Here was this beautiful, intelligent woman who was passionate about her work and helping others succeed. She seemed driven, independent, successful. Looking back now, every single detail was a carefully constructed lie. Her flexible schedule wasn't because she was managing multiple time zones for different clients. It was because she could film content whenever she wanted. Those expensive clothes I admired, not from her good salary and smart shopping. They were paid for by strangers on the internet. The way she always had cash for everything made sense now, too. "Oh, I prefer cash," she'd say when I offered to pay for dinner. "It helps me budget better." I thought it was responsible, mature. She was always busy in the evenings, especially weekends. "Sorry, babe. I've got a big campaign launching tomorrow. Need to monitor the engagement and respond to comments." I'd kiss her goodbye, tell her I was proud of her work ethic, and settle in for a Netflix marathon alone. Sometimes she'd work late into the night, texting me around 1 a.m. with messages like, "Finally finished. These wellness brands are so demanding, but the client is happy. Love you. See you tomorrow." I'd text back heart emojis, telling her she was amazing, that I admired her dedication. God, I was such an idiot. Her phone was always face down when we were together, always on silent. When it buzzed, she'd glance at it quickly and say, "Sorry, work emergency." before stepping away to handle whatever crisis needed her immediate attention. The business trips happened every few weeks. Quick overnight trips to Seattle, San Francisco, sometimes LA. Meeting potential clients, she'd explain. Building relationships is everything in this industry. I'd drive her to the airport, kiss her goodbye, and count the hours until she came back with stories about networking events and strategy sessions. Every lie was so detailed, so believable, so perfectly tailored to explain away every suspicious behavior. She'd thought of everything, and I bought every single word. The signs were everywhere. I just refused to see them. Sarah never won. Ted to meet my friends. For 6 months, I invited her to game nights, birthday parties, casual hangouts. There was always an excuse. I'm so swamped with work right now, or I'm not feeling social this week, or can we rain check? I've got an early client call tomorrow. My best friend Jake started joking that she was imaginary. Dude, are you sure this girl exists? Because I'm starting to think you made her up. I laughed it off, but it stung. Because deep down, I wanted to show her off. I wanted my friends to meet this incredible woman I was falling for. But every time I brought it up, she'd get this panicked look in her eyes before quickly covering it with another excuse. Meeting my family was even more off-limits. My mom kept asking when she'd get to meet Sarah, and I kept making promises I couldn't keep. Soon, Mom. She's just really busy with work right now. Social media was another red flag I rationalized away. Sarah barely posted anything, and when she did, it was landscapes or food. Never us together. I'd take cute couple photos, and she'd let me post them on my accounts, but she never shared them on hers. I like to keep my personal life private, she'd say. Too many crazy people online these days. It made sense at the time. Responsible, even. Now I know she couldn't risk her two worlds colliding. The way she handled simple questions about work should have been another massive warning sign. I'd ask innocent things like, "How's that campaign going?" Or, "What wellness brand are you working with this week?" And she'd get defensive immediately. "Why are you interrogating me?" she'd snap. "I talk about work enough during the day. Can't we just enjoy our time together?" I'd apologize, tell her she was right, that I was just interested in her life because I cared about her. She'd soften then, kiss me, and change the subject to something else. Those business trips that happened every few weeks, the timing was always last minute. She'd text me on a Thursday. "Babe, I have to fly to Seattle tomorrow. Big potential client wants to meet in person. Back Sunday night." No advance notice, no details about which company or what the meeting was about, just sudden travel that couldn't be postponed or rescheduled. And when she'd come back, she was always vague about how it went. "Good meetings, promising opportunities. We'll see what happens." I was so in love that I interpreted every red flag as a green one. Her privacy meant she was mysterious and intriguing. Her busy schedule meant she was ambitious and driven. Her defensive behavior meant she was stressed from working so hard. I was willfully blind because the alternative was too painful to consider, that the woman I was planning a future with was a complete stranger, that I'd fallen in love with a carefully constructed character, not a real person. But at 2:47 a.m., staring at her naked photos on my laptop screen, I couldn't pretend anymore. The breadcrumbs had led to a truth I wasn't prepared to face. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those images. Every time I tried to rationalize it away, more questions flooded my mind. By 6 a.m., I was back at my laptop with a cup of coffee that tasted like ash and a decision that would change everything. I created a fake account. I know how that sounds. Pathetic. Creepy. But I had to know the full extent of what I'd discovered. I had to understand how deep this went. The rabbit hole was deeper than I could have imagined. Sarah had profiles on 4 different platforms. 4, each one more explicit than the last. Thousands of subscribers across all of them. Reviews calling her amazing and the best. Premium content locked behind paywalls. The timestamps were what broke me. Content P. Osted during our entire relationship. Videos uploaded while I was at work, thinking she was managing social media for wellness brands. Photos taken in her apartment while I was out with friends, respecting her need for space to focus on her career. I found content filmed in locations I recognized immediately. Her kitchen, where she'd made me breakfast just last weekend, her living room, where we'd watched movies and talked about our future, even her car, the same car I'd helped her pick out 3 months ago. But the worst part? She was wearing jewelry I'd given her. The silver bracelet I'd bought for her birthday, the necklace from our 2-month anniversary, a ring I'd gotten her just because I saw it and thought she'd love it. She was wearing my gifts while performing for strangers on the internet. I found videos from 2 weeks ago, while I was in Chicago for a work conference, missing her terribly, texting her goodnight messages and telling her I couldn't wait to come home to her. She was creating content and interacting with subscribers who were paying for private shows. The comments made me sick. Hundreds of men describing what they wanted to do to her, what they were doing while watching her, how much they loved her, performances. And she responded to them, flirted with them, called them by name. The same woman who'd told me she loved me 3 days ago was telling strangers on the internet that they were so sweet and so generous for their tips and private requests. I discovered premium tiers, monthly subscriptions, custom content requests, a whole economy built around my girlfriend's body that I knew nothing about. The business model was sophisticated, professional. This wasn't some amateur side hustle. This was a full-time operation with regular content schedules, promotional campaigns, and customer service. Those late-night work sessions I'd admired, she was live streaming. Those business trips I'd supported, I didn't want to think about what those actually were. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through months of content created while she was telling me she loved me, while we were planning weekend getaways, while I was falling for someone who didn't exist. The woman I loved was a fiction, a character she played when she wasn't performing for her real audience. I closed the laptop and stared at the wall for an hour, trying to process what I'd learned, trying to figure out how to confront someone who'd been lying about literally everything for 6 months. How do you even begin that conversation? I was about to find out. I spent the entire day preparing for a conversation I never thought I'd have to have. Sarah texted me around noon. "Working late again tonight, babe. Don't wait up. Love you." For the first time in 6 months, I knew exactly what working late meant. I printed screenshots. I know it sounds calculated, but I needed proof. I needed evidence that this wasn't some nightmare I'd imagined. Physical proof that the woman I loved had been living a double life. She came home at 11:30 p.m., using her key like always, calling out, "Hey honey, I'm home," like this was just another normal evening after another normal day at her normal job. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a folder full of printouts and 6 months of lies spread out in front of me. "We need to talk," I said. She froze in the doorway, and I watched her face change as she processed the scene. The papers, my expression, the weight of whatever was coming. "What's going on?" she asked, but her voice was different, careful, like she was already calculating her response. I slid the first photo across the table, her profile picture from the main site. The color drained from her face. "I can exhaw. Lane," she said immediately. "Can you?" I asked. "Because I've been trying to explain it to myself all day, and I can't figure out how you explain 6 months of lies." She sat down across from me, and I watched her cycle through different strategies in real time. Denial first. "This isn't what it looks like." I slid another photo across the table, then another. Content from multiple platforms. Screenshots showing the dates, the timestamps, the subscription counts. "Sarah, I found everything." Denial crumbled into anger. "So you're spying on me now? Creating fake accounts to stalk me online? That's psychotic, Alex. That's not normal behavior. What's not normal is lying to your boyfriend for 6 months about your job, about your life, about everything." She stood up, pacing now, running her hands through her hair. "It's not lying. It's complicated. You wouldn't understand." "Try me." That's when she shifted to minimization. "It's just business, Alex. It's not personal. It's not cheating. I'm not sleeping with anyone. It's just content. It's just work." "Work?" I held up a screenshot of her interacting with subscribers. "You told this guy he was your favorite. You told him you were thinking about him while you were dating me. That's just customer service. That's how the business works." The business of lying to me? She sat back down and I could see her calculating again. What approach would work? What story would save this? "I was going to tell you," she said finally. "I was planning to quit soon anyway. This was always temporary." When? When were you going to tell me?" After we moved in together, after I met your parents, after we got married. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You've been lying to me about who you are for 6 months. Every morning when you kissed me goodbye and went to work. Every night when you came home and told me about your day. Every time I told you I was proud of your career success. She started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative kind. I wanted to tell you, but I knew you'd react like this. I knew you'd leave. So instead you decided to keep lying indefinitely? I didn't know what else to do. I looked at this woman I thought I knew, crying at my kitchen table, and realized I was looking at a complete stranger. But this was just the beginning of the truth. The tears didn't last long. As our argument escalated, Sarah's carefully constructed walls started crumbling, and the truth came pouring out in devastating waves. "You want to know everything?" she screamed. "Fine. You want the whole truth?" I thought I was prepared for whatever came next. I was wrong. It's not just online content, Alex. Some of these guys, some of them pay extra for meetups. The words hit me like a physical blow. What does that mean? It means exactly what you think it means. The room started spinning again. Those business trips, those weekend getaways I couldn't come on because they were work-related. How many times? Does it matter? It matters to me. Maybe 6 or 7 times. Maybe more. I don't keep count. 6 or 7 times. Maybe more. While we were together. While I was falling in love with her. While I was planning a future with someone who was physically intimate with strangers for money. Those trips to Seattle? To San Francisco? She nodded, not meeting my eyes. The weekend you said you had to visit your sick aunt in Portland? Another nod. Every lie was unraveling, revealing something worse underneath, like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. I have debt, Alex. Massive debt. Student loans, credit cards, medical bills from when my mom was sick. The content alone wasn't enough. The meetups pay 10 times more. So you decided prostitution was the answer? Don't call it that. What would you call it? She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. But as I watched her cry, something clicked. Ked, this wasn't shame about what she'd done. This wasn't remorse about lying to me. This was panic about getting caught. I never meant for this to happen, she said through tears. I started the online stuff in college just to pay bills. It was supposed to be temporary. But then I met you, and I was falling for you. But I couldn't quit because I needed the money. And then it got harder and harder to tell you the truth because we were getting serious and I knew you'd leave. So you decided to keep lying forever? I was going to stop. I swear I was going to stop. After I paid off my debt. After we figured out our future. I just needed more time. Time for what? To lie to me more? To keep meeting strangers while telling me you loved me? I do love you. You don't even know what love means. She looked up at me then. Mascara streaked down her face, and I saw something in her eyes that chilled me. Calculation. Even now, even caught in the worst possible way, she was trying to figure out how to manipulate this situation. We can work through this, she said. Couples therapy. I'll quit everything tomorrow. We can start over. Start over? Sarah, I don't even know who you are. The woman I fell in love with doesn't exist. I'm still me. I'm still the same person. No, you're not. The person I loved wouldn't have lied to me for 6 months, wouldn't have risked my health by sleeping with strangers, wouldn't have built our entire relationship on deception. She grabbed my hands across the table. Please don't throw this away. Please don't throw us away. I made mistakes, but I love you. I really do love you. I pulled my hands away. You love the safety I provided, the normalcy, the cover story for your real life. But you don't love me, Sarah. You can't love someone you've never been honest with. That's not true. It is true. And you know what the worst part is? She looked at me with desperate hope, like maybe I was about to offer some path to forgiveness. I believe you when you say you never planned to tell me. I believe you would have kept this up forever if you could have. The hope died in her eyes. I need you to leave, I said. I need space to think about this. Alex, please. Just go, Sarah. Just go. She gathered her things and left, and I sat alone in my kitchen surrounded by evidence of 6 months of lies, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. But the story wasn't over yet. Sarah left that night promising she'd give me space to process everything, and that we'd talk in a few days when I was thinking more clearly. She texted me the next morning. "I know you're hurt and angry, but please don't make any permanent decisions while you're emotional. I love you, and I want to fight for us." I didn't respond, but I couldn't stop myself from checking her profiles. What I found destroyed any remaining sympathy I had for her situation. She was still active, still posting content, still scheduling private shows. Less than 12 hours after confessing everything to me, after crying and begging for another chance, she was back to business as usual. A new video posted that morning with the caption, "Good morning, beautiful people. Ready to make today amazing?" She was live streaming that evening. While I was at home, devastated and trying to process the destruction of my relationship, she was performing for her subscribers like nothing had happened. But the real knife in the heart came when I found her private messages. I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But I needed to understand who this person really was. I needed to know if anything about us had been real. What I found was worse than I could have imagined. Messages to subscribers from 2 weeks ago. "My vanilla boyfriend has no idea what he's missing. You guys know how to treat a girl, right?" From last month. "Date night with the boyfriend. So boring compared to you guys. At least he pays for dinner while you pay for everything else." From 3 weeks ago. "He thinks I work in social media marketing. If only he knew his innocent girlfriend was doing this while he's at his boring office job." She'd been mocking me, to strangers, making jokes about how naive I was, how boring our relationship was, how much more exciting her real life was compared to the charade she performed with me. I was a joke to her, a convenient cover story, a way to feel normal while living a life I would never have accepted. The woman who'd cried in my kitchen, who'd begged me not to throw away our relationship, who'd sworn she loved me, had been laughing about me behind my back for months. I found messages from the night she came home late 2 weeks ago, the night she'd said she was working on a big campaign. "Just finished an amazing private show. My boyfriend is asleep in the other room and has no clue what just happened. The risk makes it so much hotter." The night I'd made her dinner, and she'd said she was too stressed to eat. The night she'd said work was overwhelming and she needed to focus. She'd been performing for strangers while I was trying to take care of her. Every tender moment we'd shared was contaminated now. Every time I'd supported her stressful work schedule, I'd been enabling her deception. Every time I'd been proud of her success, I'd been celebrating lies. But the final straw came in a message thread from yesterday. "Subscriber, haven't seen you online much today. Everything okay? Sarah, drama with the boyfriend. He found out about my work, trying to manage the situation. Subscriber, dump him. You're too good for vanilla guys anyway. Sarah, I know, just trying to see if I can keep both lives going a little longer. The financial security from having a boyfriend is nice, but you guys are way more fun." I screenshotted everything. Then I closed my laptop and made a decision that would change everything. I didn't text Sarah back for 3 days. Instead, I spent those 3 days doing something I should have done months ago. I got to know who she really was. I packed everything she'd left at my apartment, her toiletries from my bathroom, her clothes from my dresser, the coffee mug she'd claimed as hers, the books she'd brought over and never taken home. Every item felt contaminated now. The sweater she'd worn while cuddling with me on the couch was the same sweater she'd worn in content for her subscribers. The perfume she'd left on my nightstand was the same scent her clients would remember from their meetups. I changed my locks. I blocked her number. I removed her from all my social media accounts. When she finally showed up at my door on Thursday evening, expecting to have the conversation she'd been promising, she found her belongings packed in neat boxes on my doorstep and a new lock that her key couldn't open. She knocked, then pounded, then rang the doorbell repeatedly. Alex, I know you're in there. We need to talk." I opened the door with the chain still attached. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Yes, there is. You can't just throw away 6 months because you're hurt and angry." "I'm not throwing away 6 months. You already did that when you built our entire relationship on lies. I made mistakes, but... Mistakes? I held up my phone with screenshots of her messages. You called me vanilla. You mocked me to your subscribers. You said keeping both lives going was convenient for financial security. Her face went white. You were reading my private messages? Your private messages where you made jokes about how stupid your boyfriend was? Those private messages? That's taken out of context. What context makes it okay to mock your boyfriend to the mirror? And you're performing for? She tried a different approach, desperation mode. Alex, please. I'll delete everything. I'll quit all of it today. I'll get a normal job. We can start over. No. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. Sarah, you posted new content the day after you confessed everything to me. You scheduled shows while promising me you'd changed. You're still lying even now. She broke down on my doorstep, but this time I recognized the performance for what it was. You don't understand the pressure I was under, the debt, the money, the expectations. I didn't know how to get out. You got out by lying to me instead of trusting me with the truth. I was scared you'd leave. So instead you made the decision for both of us. You decided I wasn't worth honesty. You decided our relationship wasn't worth authenticity. That's not what I decided. That's exactly what you decided. Every single day for 6 months. I handed her the boxes. Goodbye, Sarah. Alex, wait. I closed the door. She stayed outside for another 20 minutes, alternating between pleading and anger, promising she'd change, then blaming me for snooping, then begging for another chance, then accusing me of being heartless. Finally, I heard her car start and drive away. I sat on my couch in the silence of my apartment and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. For the first time in months, I knew exactly where I stood. No more questions about her mysterious schedule. No more wondering why she was so secretive. No more red flags to rationalize away. The woman I'd fallen in love with had never existed, but the person I was without her, that person was real. That person deserved honesty, trust, and authentic love. It was time to figure out who that person could become. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop writing this story, and I can honestly say I'm grateful all it happened. Not grateful for the betrayal, not grateful for the lies, but grateful for the lesson it taught me about the difference between who someone pretends to be and who they actually are. Sarah tried to contact me a few more times in the weeks after our breakup. Emails saying she'd quit everything and was getting help. Text messages from new numbers asking if we could just talk. A handwritten letter delivered to my apartment explaining her childhood trauma and financial pressures. I didn't respond to any of it. Because I realized something important. Her reasons didn't matter. Her excuses didn't change what she'd done. Her promises to change didn't erase 6 months of calculated deception. The woman who could lie to my face every single day while building an intimate life with strangers was not someone I could ever trust again. And more importantly, she wasn't someone I wanted to trust again. I spent those 6 months learning to trust myself instead. I learned to pay attention to red flags instead of rationalizing them away. I learned that love shouldn't require you to ignore your instincts. I learned that someone who truly loves you doesn't make you feel crazy for asking basic questions about their life. Most importantly, I learned that authenticity is non-negotiable. 3 months ago, I met someone new. Her name is Emma, and when I asked her what she did for work on our first date, she spent 20 minutes explaining her job as a middle school science teacher. She showed me photos of her classroom. She told me about her favorite students and her least favorite administrative policies. When I told her about my job in marketing, she asked follow-up questions, real questions, questions that showed she was listening and cared about my answers. It sounds basic, right? But after 6 months with someone who couldn't give me a straight answer about her career, Emma's transparency felt revolutionary. Emma posts photos of us together on social media. She invites me to meet her friends. She's introduced me to her parents. She answers her phone in front of me and tells me who's calling. These aren't special relationship achievements. They're basic relationship behaviors. But when you've been with someone who treated transparency like a threat, you realize how rare and valuable honesty actually is. I'm not saying I don't have trust issues now. I do. The first time Emma's phone buzzed face down on the table during dinner, my stomach clenched. The first time she had to work late, I caught myself wondering if she was really at the office. But here's the difference. Emma noticed my anxiety and addressed it directly. She turned her phone face up and showed me the text. She called me from her office during her late night and put me on speakerphone so I could hear her coworkers in the background. She didn't get defensive or accuse me of being paranoid. She understood that my previous relationship had damaged my ability to trust, and she actively worked to rebuild it. That's what real love looks like. Not perfect people who never trigger your insecurities, but people who care enough to help you heal from them. Looking back, I can see that Sarah never really loved me. She loved the stability I provided, the cover story I represented, the normal life I made possible while she lived her real life in secret. But Emma loves the person I actually am. She knows my fears, my flaws, my history with betrayal, and she chooses me anyway. She chooses transparency anyway. She chooses us anyway. To anyone watching this who's dealing with red flags in their relationship, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If someone gets defensive about basic questions, that's not normal. If you feel like you're dating a stranger after months together, you probably are. Love shouldn't be a mystery. It shouldn't require detective work. It shouldn't make you feel crazy for wanting honesty. You deserve someone who chooses you completely, not someone who compartmentalizes you into the acceptable parts of their life while hiding everything else. You deserve someone who's proud to be with you, not someone who treats you like a convenient cover story. You deserve authenticity, nothing less. And if you're with someone who can't give you that, you deserve better, even if it means starting over, even if it means being alone for a while. Because being alone is so much better than being with someone who makes you feel alone anyway. Trust me on that one. What would you have done in my situation? Tell me in the comments if you think I made the right choice, or if there's something I should have done differently. Your stories and advice help others going through similar situations. And remember, you deserve love that doesn't require you to ignore your instincts. You deserve love that doesn't come with secrets. You deserve love that's real. Don't settle for anything less.